We're going to continue on with Chapter 6 and Section 2 today, talk about the different resources that we have available to us and how we are using them and maybe even depleting them. So last one we talked about was the forests. So today we're going to talk about, to start off, our fishery resources. And the reasons why these are important is because fish and other animals that live in water, they can serve as a valuable source of food. So they have for a long time, and however, like all things that we're going to be talking about, they can be used up and they can be depleted, and one way that this has happened is what is called overfishing. So it's pretty much, the name pretty much describes exactly what the definition means, because it's the harvesting fish faster than they can be replaced by reproduction. So this is happening all over the world, and it has greatly reduced the amount of fish in parts of our world's oceans. So we have big boats out there that are taking out the fish faster than the fish can replenish themselves. That's called overfishing. And until recently, our fisheries, which is a place where we actually raise fish and then release them into the wild, that seemed to be a very renewable resource because, again, we were raising them in this very confined area. But overfishing has limited that resource as well. So there are places where they even raise fish, and overfishing has even affected the places that are raising fish and releasing them as well. However, we have had some sustainable development practices. So remember, sustainable development is just a practice of using Earth's resources without depleting them and without causing damage to the environment. So the U.S. National Marine Fisheries Service, they issued guidelines on how many fish and of what size can be caught in various parts of the ocean, and it has helped our populations of fish recover. So they noticed that there was a problem, they went out and made some changes, and fish populations are starting to recover. So look around 1980, this is the fish cod, and then in the mid-90s, and that doesn't stand for Call of Duty, by the way, that's actually a fish called cod, and like in the mid-90s, the numbers started actually around 1990, started dropping. As you can see, we are starting to see a steady increase. Then another fish called haddock, which is kind of just another saltwater fish, again, right around the 1990s, big dip, but its population has started to climb as well. And one way that this is kind of to go hand in hand with these increased fish production is a process that is known as aquaculture, and so this is kind of an important topic that you need to know about. And this is the raising of aquatic animals simply just for human consumption, and again, it's called aquaculture, and this has also helped to sustain our fish resources. So there's a lot of places where people raise cows just for human consumption. Aquaculture is the same thing, except it's the raising of animals that live in the water, or aquatic animals just for humans to eat. So this has helped us with our fish resources as well. So we've talked about land, we've talked about water, so now we're going to talk about our air resources. And this is a big one because the condition of the air can directly affect people's health. So whether or not the air is clean, whether or not there's a lot of pollutants in there, can really affect how healthy a person is. And one big problem in this world that we're kind of coming in today with all the emissions that we have from our cars and factories is what is known as smog. So I would know this, I'd make sure you have this written down, that smog is a mixture of chemicals that occurs as a gray-brown haze in the atmosphere. So it's chemicals, again, not a natural looking color at all. It's obviously not going to be good for you. And it is caused by two things mainly, and it's due mainly there's the automobile exhaust and industrial emissions, so like the big factories and things like that. And this is considered to be what we call pollutant because it can threaten people's health. And what a pollutant is, which is going to kind of be self-explanatory, is something that causes pollution, or simply a harmful material that can enter our biosphere through the land, air, or water. So anything that can negatively affect our biosphere that is a harmful material. And one of the biggest causes of releasing pollutants is the burning of fossil fuels, and because it can cause problems with smog, and it can cause other problems in the atmosphere as well. However, we've kind of come a long way recently that with our car industry, because they've made strict automobile emission standards so that we don't have those gigantic SUVs driving around too much anymore that are constantly spewing out tons of emissions. We have a lot of hybrid type cars now, and it has helped improve our air quality in many cities, but the air pollution is still a problem. So it's not a problem we've completely fixed, but we have gotten better by kind of eliminating some of the bigger gigantic cars. And one of those, but again, it says it's still a problem, and one of those problems has been something that, again, that we call acid rain. So this is going to be another important thing, because this is caused by combustion processes, and all that simply means is things like an engine running is the biggest kind of example. Anything in a factory, that's called the combustion process. your car that you drive to school each day that has a combustion process going on inside there, and it releases nitrogen and sulfur into the atmosphere, and these compounds combine with water vapor to form acid rain. So sulfur and nitrogen get into our atmosphere, they combine with our water, and they have acid rain. And you can see here's kind of a little diagram of how it can occur. Again, we see all the emissions coming from industry, from our transportation, and then again just from other kind of factory work type things with power generation, which we have right outside of town. And they all kind of build up together in the clouds. Condensation that comes down as acid rain, could come as offset fog, snow, and mist as well. So that's the process, kind of what it looks like. And the reason why acid rain is a problem, because it can kill plants, and it does that by damaging their leaves, and it can change the chemistry of the soils and standing water ecosystems. So it can change the amount of dissolved nutrients and chemicals that we have to make it uninhabitable by certain species, or maybe allow certain species to live in an area that couldn't live there before. And acid rain may also dissolve and release toxic elements such as mercury from the soil, freeing the elements to enter other portions of the biosphere. So basically what that means is that inside of our soil we kind of have some elements that are trapped in there that might be poisonous. So they're trapped down in the soil. When the acid rain comes down, it basically frees them up and they're able to escape and cause more pollution. So acid rain is a big problem. And then our last source here, going along with kind of back to the fisheries, is our freshwater resources. So Americans use billions of liters of fresh water daily, from everything from drinking and washing to watering crops, two big ones around here, and also used to make steel. And although water is a renewable resource, the total supply of fresh water is limited and threatened by pollution. So we do not have an unlimited source of fresh water. It's kind of being subjected to some various things, which include improperly discarded chemicals that come into streams and rivers, make that bigger, waste that are discarded on land that seep through the soil and enter underground water supplies, and there's domestic sewage that contains compounds that encourage growth of algae and bacteria, and there's sewage that contains microorganisms that spread disease, again, all those getting into our water and causing pollution. So there are some ways that we can kind of practice sustainable use of water. First one being is that we one way to ensure the sustainable use of water is to protect our natural systems involved in the water cycle that help purify water. So again, keeping the emissions out so it doesn't come back down as acid rain, and also keeping wetlands, forests, and other vegetations clean, because they are also part of the water cycle as well. And we can also conserve. We can conserve it in home, or we can conserve water in our homes and industry and agriculture as well. So that's it for section 2. Let me know if you have any questions.